While some schools are welcoming students back to in-person learning, others have already opened up, closed down, all within a matter of weeks. That's forcing students to find new places to do their work, kind of like us here in a parking lot. Here's how schools take action when a case of COVID-19 is confirmed on campus. We'll start here with a law document released by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. This is a guide for what schools and school districts need to do if students test positive for COVID-19. So let's say one student tests positive. That student is told to stay at home in isolation, but the rest of their class or cohort could also be told that they need to quarantine. To find out if that's necessary, school leaders will look at this flowchart, which asks questions like if any other students have symptoms. The state says it's the school's call whether to quarantine others based on one case. If two or more students or teachers from different households test positive within the same classroom or cohort, then we have a COVID-19 outbreak. Again, everyone who tested positive has to isolate at home, but now the rest of the classroom or cohort must also quarantine. At this point, closing down the school may not be necessary yet, but health experts recommend the school consider a school-wide testing event to determine if there are any more cases. So when is a school told that they have to shut down in-person learning? That would happen if at least 5% of students or teachers have confirmed positive tests of COVID-19. From there, the school would stay closed for 14 days. Everyone who is tested positive must stay home for 14 days. Even if they get a negative test. So we know that this can be confusing and a lot to take in, so we have more information on our website about how this all works and how you can keep your kids safe. In a parking lot in Denver, I'm Mark Salinger, 9 News.